Hello and welcome to Tomi Talks TV, the place to be to build great love relationships. And I'd like to start by saying a very big thank you. Thank you for all your likes and your shares and your comments on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. I really appreciate you because you're helping us spread the message further, faster. So thank you very much indeed. Now today I'm going to be taking one of your questions and it goes like this. I'm married to an introvert husband who doesn't appreciate bonding with me. He sees sex as a thing to be done when he is ready. He's never available for my needs. I'm just frustrated. What do I do? Now, I can sense how you're feeling in the way you've expressed yourself in this message. You know, one of the challenges of marriage is that a lot of couples buy into what I call the myth of matching libidos. So they assume that when a couple falls in love and when they get married, because you love each other, you will tend to have matching sex drives. But nothing could be further from the truth. The reality of the matter is this: any couple that has been married for any considerable length of time will tell you that usually you will find that it's very rare that your sex drives are matching or your desire for sex is matching. So most of the time you'll find that one person is desirous of sex and the other person is not particularly interested, or it could switch and then become the other way around. And there are all sorts of reasons why this might happen. You find in some marriages that one party generally tends to have a stronger sex drive than the other. Most often that tends to be the man, but it's not always the case that it is the man. So, you know, there's always a lot of give and take in the area of marriage when it comes to this issue of sex. And unless you're prepared to, go beyond your comfort zone to be a blessing and meet the needs of your partner, then it can be very challenging indeed for the other person. I'd like to read a few scriptures for you as far as this is concerned, because I think it's very important that we see the scriptural perspective for the issue of sex in marriage. So in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, I'm going to be reading from verse 1 to 5. It says, "Now concerning the things of which you wrote to me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. Nevertheless, because of sexual immorality, let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. Let the husband render to his wife the affection due to her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another, except with consent, for a time, that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, so that Satan does not tempt you because of your lack of self-control." So there are a number of principles that we can pick from this scripture. The first thing that you need to remember in a marriage is this: that denying your partner of sex in marriage exposes them to sexual temptation. There's no other way to put it, and the Bible is very clear about this. So one of the reasons for marriage is so that we can have the opportunity for expressing our sexual desires without a need to feel guilt or shame. So that's one of the things that you signed for in marriage. When you decided to get married to somebody, you signed up for meeting that person's sexual needs. And the reality is that every partner in a marriage needs to always remember that the only way your spouse can legitimately meet their sexual needs is with you. Any other means of meeting their sexual needs is not legitimate and would be a sin against God. So because of that, we need to consider that it's a very sacred trust that God has placed upon us when he gives somebody to us as a husband or as a wife. And it's something that we should not take lightly at all. So it's very crucial that we do everything that we can to meet the sexual needs of our spouse. So a lot of times this will require sacrificial love. So that means giving even when you don't feel like giving. Sometimes you will find that, maybe a husband who maybe generally had an okay sex drive, or maybe he's passing through some challenges, maybe he's having financial issues, maybe he's having problems at work, maybe he's lost his job, and because of that, there's a knock-on effect on his self-esteem, and suddenly he's no longer interested in sex again. Or sometimes you find a wife, who maybe because of her, changes in her emotions, changes in her hormones, is not particularly interested in sex at that particular point in time. So that, can place some pressure on the sex life of a couple. But One thing I always advise is this: if you are the partner that is desiring sex less than your spouse is, you need to step up. You need to step up your game, because you know, even though you're having these challenges and your sex drive is not up to par at that particular point in time, you cannot expect that your partner's sex drive will go to sleep or will go on pause simply because yours has gone on pause. So I always advise, act more sexual than you feel. It's an act of sacrifice. You might not feel like it. Sometimes it might be downright inconvenient to meet your partner's sexual needs, but act more sexual than you feel, and God will grant you the grace, to be able to be a blessing to that person. And I also say, for the other partner, if you're the one that is wanting sex more frequently than your spouse is, you also need to be considerate. So don't be over demanding, and when they're doing everything that they can to meet your needs, appreciate everything that they're doing. And when you make your sexual needs known, don't do it in a blaming fashion, but try to find something that works for both of you. And that's actually my final point. Try to find a method that works for both of you. So sometimes you find that maybe the timing does not work for both of you, or maybe you want to vary the location, or whatever it might be, anything to add interest to your sex life. But ultimately, I always say that the partner who is wanting sex less should be the one to do everything that they can to step up and be a blessing to their spouse, so that they don't expose them to sexual temptation. Now lastly, let me say, in this situation, that if you've tried to share with your husband what your needs are, without being demanding, and without trying to be difficult, if you've tried your best to share with him how much it means to you that he bonds with you sexually, and he is really not showing interest, that you probably will need to seek advice, so marriage counseling, so that someone can actually sit you both down and talk to you about how important this is, because a good sex life is crucial to a good marriage. Well, I hope this has helped you. If this has helped you, then please leave me a message on Facebook or Twitter. And if you've got a question you would like me to answer, then head on over to tomitalks.com/ask, and I'll answer your question next time. See you next time. Bye bye.